because we don't think Canadians want an election, but election there will be.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we've got a really special guest on, and that's Blake Roberts. You say, who is Blake Roberts? Well, Blake Roberts is the guy who videographed that incredible footage we had on yesterday. And when I come back, a little more about that, and we'll meet Blake. Thank you for joining me today.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes, we're doing it live. Thanks so much. And I just wanted to show this to you. A lot of you watched yesterday where I showed that video that Blake was responsible for, showing the RCMP dumping a literal truckload of garbage at a landfill site. And it's actually, as Blake explained to me when we talked yesterday for quite a while, it's not really a landfill site. It's a gravel pit that the RCMP have confiscated or appropriated and are using it as a landfill site. So it's quite interesting that on Facebook yesterday, not on YouTube, incidentally, but just on Facebook put a red flag on this episode because they said there was material here, and I'll read it here: violent or graphic content. Do they know something we don't know? There was actually no violent content on that video. Maybe there was graphic content. Maybe Facebook is aware of it and we're not. But without further ado, I want to bring Blake onto the show here because this is Blake, thank you so much for getting up so early in British Columbia to join me today.
David.
And I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, good. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. But anyway, I was just showing. I'm sure you saw that in the back room there. Like Facebook actually flagged the video saying it was graphic or violent content. But I guess what I wanted to do was to show the better version of it, which you were graciously provided to us. And I'll turn the sound down so we can talk through it. But of course, I got a lot of questions to ask you in addition. But maybe we can just watch that and see what happens here.
Okay, yeah, he pulled up. I'll zoom in on his license plate. Let's do that.
All right, let me turn the sound down there. And I see no problem with showing this license plate because the RCMP is a public body, taxpayer funded, and there should be no secret if their police cars are engaged in this. So, but this is definitely a lot easier to watch than the one I put out the other day. But
sorry about that.
So feel free to jump in anytime you want.
Yeah, so this is about, I guess, a mile up towards the Nakusp from the farm, and it's a gravel pit of some sort called YRB that the RCMP have essentially seized. There is still a YRB worker there in the gravel behind you there, but there's probably 15 RCMP vehicles there constantly. There's a RCMP RV there, some sort of a command center, and this is where they take the garbage bins from the killing fields, as we're calling them. They take them over here, load them up onto flatbeds, and then some of us have followed them to the Super Save in Vernon, where they're then transported. They're loaded into, like a bigger garbage truck that you see, come down our city streets to load up garbage there. And then some people have, they've got eyes on the dump to see where they go from there. But these go flatbed, they go farm to here, flatbed to Super Safe in Vernon. for the most part. There have been some. We think that they're actually cutting off now before burning somewhere as well. So, don't know.
Well, here they are taking these garbage bags out, and we can't see what's in it. And of course, we're asking the question, what is this? It looks in some of the stills to be possibly animal parts, or some people have saying it's just the tag from the bag or the string. It's impossible to really say. But what is beyond dispute is that these are RCMP officers. They've got the police on the back of their flak jackets, if you will. I don't know what the hell they're wearing flak jackets for in this scenario. But the question I have, and I shared this footage yesterday with David Freiheit, otherwise known as Viva Fry. We often talk offline about this issue because he's been following the ostrich story very faithfully as well. And his first question was, well, regardless of what's in those bags, what the hell are the RCMP doing throwing garbage at the dumpster? And how are they producing that much garbage? I mean, something here just doesn't connect for me, Blake, and it hasn't from the very beginning. And as soon as I know, I called Katie one night, and I was looking for an update, and she got back to me like hours later, and she said, "Sorry, I've been out chasing dumpsters." And I think it was this. Well, I think it was maybe the same night that you had filmed this, because she was very interested in what was in those dumpsters, and of course she wasn't allowed to look at them. And I think she caught a peek and couldn't see anything, but just absolutely, well, this is going on.
Well, like we've all said, there's as many people more at the farm than there are RCMP on site, and we're not producing. Kate will probably tell you not a 20th of this. It makes no sense. These bins are constantly leaving, constantly, and again, if there's nothing in there, then let people look at every dumpster. Why have it locked down? Obviously there's something in there they don't want people to see. Obviously.
Yeah, you'd have to be a fool not to come to that conclusion. But
sorry, I was standing on a stump. I was hiding behind a tree.
Yeah, I know. I will say this, Blake. You're the only one that I know of. And maybe there's, and here's the second video here, which is really clear. But once again, they're there fishing through the dumpster. And of course, this story is somewhat symbolic, like this whole scene here, because this story has become a dumpster for the federal government. And we use that as a cliche now. Every time a story unravels for the government or for anybody who likes to think they're in charge. But this is a dumpster story, and it's a dumpster on fire. This dumpster here isn't on fire, but the story is increasingly embarrassing. And I have to ask, where the hell are the journalists on scene? I don't ask why the CBC isn't there. They're in cahoots with the government. They're in cahoots with the RCMP and the CFIA. They've made that quite clear. They're a mouthpiece for the government on this. They've been putting out hit pieces on Katie and her family now for weeks. I actually brought Katie in and Viva Fry when the CBC put out this really incredible hit piece, and it was just full of BS. And we critiqued almost every frame of that hit piece from CBC. But when we did that, interestingly enough, they backed away from trying to dispute the facts of the case, that these ostriches are healthy, these ostriches should be tested and at least counted. They backed away from that and started doing hit pieces on Katie's family, that they owe money, that there's problems, and all the neighbors at the farm around the farm can't stand these people. Stand them, and one neighbor was attacked by a supporter, and that, of course, was highly questionable whether that was really a supporter or not. But
Well, even if that,
my question is, where are the new media or independent media? And I'm sort of both. I work for a number of new media companies, but my show is what they call independent media. And I broadcast what I please until Mark Carney comes down and sends a cop to my door and takes me away, which I hope is not going to happen, but God knows in this country it could. But where are those reporters? It's like they're afraid to follow these cars. They're afraid to work at night. Because I got a letter yesterday, an email yesterday, Blake, from a guy who emails me 2 or 3 times a week, who watches my show every day. And he said a lot of things, but what I really focused on, he said, why are these reporters not out there with night vision photography, night vision technology, getting shots of what's going on at night? We're hearing stories about dart guns going off. We're hearing stories about, we're seeing video now of, and he had just watched the show. He said, this video is incriminating. This is incredible material. Where are the reporters? Why is it up to Blake Roberts to go out there and videograph these people doing this? And I haven't seen a single shot from media who are there. And I'm not taking anything away from Rebel News. They've done a great job on scene, about the only people there at times, or some of the independents who are there getting shots. But where are they? Why aren't they out at this landfill site doing their jobs?
I guess if you're asking me, I don't know exactly who these reporters are that would be doing this. I guess there are independents there. Jim Kerr was doing a really good job until he got arrested for feeding birds. Mike Root is there. Chris Dacey is there. They've got follow Mike Root, the Root Awakening tour, everybody as well, because they've got high quality cameras. They're up in the hills videoing the killing fields with incredible shots. And if anybody has night vision cameras that they want to get to us, to get to Mike or Chris, I'm sure they would love to get their hands on those as well, because the cameras that have been donated to them are incredible. So, and that's what Katie's always said. They're trying to stop this cull, but if it happens, they want it filmed. They want everybody to see it. And the RCMP and CFIA is trying to hide it because of where they positioned everything. But Mike and Chris have cameras on that site, and where they are, they can't be arrested. They're perfectly legal to be where they are right now. So,
well, I think Mike and Chris, I'm going to put myself back on the scene here. I think Mike and Chris should probably wander over to that landfill site and get some shots of this, because it shouldn't be up to everybody else. I mean, Chris has got tremendous reach right now on X and other social media. And like I said, when I saw this video, I guess it was Monday night, I had never seen it before, and I was totally captivated by it. And I wondered why nobody had shown it on X. I know it had been distributed on Facebook groups, but nobody outside of those Facebook groups had seen it. And I think it would be a good idea if the other media on the site, who are used to doing this sort of thing, I'll put it that way, get out there and get more documentation of this, because this is incriminating. And the CFIA and the RCMP are doing this dirty work in the broad light of day, and they're doing it at night as well. But they have set everything up. So, they built this road, this causeway, on an adjacent property parcel of land that they have absolutely no right to occupy. They're doing this totally illegally. They have no right to be taking over somebody else's farm that is not part of Universal Ostrich Farms. It's arguable whether they even have a right to do that, because, if you look at the warrant to search here, and we've been studying this for the last few days, it's highly suspicious because there's no file number. The person authorizing it's not clear if this is really a justice of the peace or not. So, but that aside, we've got the CFIA doing all of this stuff in secret, but yet why aren't people following them to this landfill site to see what's going on? Because I don't think they can be arrested for that. They might be intimidated by the RCMP. They might be threatened by the RCMP, but I don't think they can be arrested for that. And that to me is, as a lot of people have been pointing out to me for the last couple of days, especially since they saw your video, they're saying this is horrible, that this is being allowed to happen and nobody is really documenting the crime. It's just, we know the crime is going on, but nobody's documenting it. And I think you're the first video I've seen that actually incriminates both the CFIA.
There probably are more, David. A lot of us were live streaming when the proverbial, what was hitting the fan. So there might be more that are just straight on cameras that are being locked down. Who knows? Because I'm not the only one there. There was lots of people constantly going to that site. I didn't realize what I had caught until somebody else told me a few days later, to be honest with you. So, yeah, because there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of wonderful people at that farm doing a lot of wonderful things. Katie's talked about, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but Katie's talked about it before. But
Blake, I was at the Freedom Convoy protest from the very beginning to the very end. And one of the issues there was that the communications was not well coordinated. You found out about the news conferences, if you found out about them at all, when they were half over, and the mainstream media seemed to dominate these news conferences. They always seem to get it, but a lot of the folks working for U.S. media, as I was at the time, or working for independent or new media, we never really seemed to get the word until it was, like I said, I used to rush to the news conferences halfway through. But I think what we need to do, those of us who really care about this story and about getting the truth out, I'm sorry, I better myself back in the picture here. Those of us who really care about getting the truth out, I think what we need to do is ensure that the work you're doing and all these other people gets out there on social media, because the RCMP and mainly the CFIA, and I know the RCMP is sort of, Katie said some good things about some of them that they have tried. Overall, I'm not that impressed, especially when they're emptying a dumpster. But I think what we need to do is get all of this information out there quickly, and I mean like this week and next week, because I'm seeing reports that the Supreme Court might come back with an answer on whether they are going to hear this appeal by October 30th. That's like 9 days away.
quick.
I don't know if these ostriches can survive 9 more days of this. And I know I was on a radio show this morning. That's why I was so harried getting on this, my own broadcast, because the guy was fascinated by the fact that, Katie had made a statement. Katie and her mom went to the RCMP station to make a statement to ask them to lay charges of animal cruelty against the CFIA. But we've got this video evidence here. And where do we go with this? Because clearly the RCMP is doing things that they really shouldn't be doing. I think they need to answer these questions. I think we need to demand that they answer these questions instead of just letting this go day on, day out. And because clearly they're trying to, what's the word I'm looking, wear out the clock, or they know time is on their side because they are deliberately or directly or indirectly, however it is, they're neglecting the health of these birds. They are subjecting these birds to things they shouldn't be. I think they're not giving them proper food and water. I think they're starving them. And I do believe that there is deliberate malfeasance, I'll put it that way, going on
100%.
behind the scenes here.
And they deny, they've said that they're just here as peacekeepers, and they're right on video. They're carrying garbage, I'm disappointed in the RCMP as I call them the GCMP now, the Government of Canada Mounted Police. Let's call it what it is. They protect us until the government tells them to attack us, and that's what they're doing right now. I was there the night that they came And that show of force, how they drove onto the farm, was pure intimidation tactic. It was, and we're just a bunch of supporters, not protesters. Like we couldn't. If you saw the people at this farm, nobody here could really hurt a fly. And for the RCMP to drive in with their tinted windows, some in military fatigues, driving past us, it was the most shocking.
Well, it's still well, I shouldn't say it surprises me. I still have to laugh that the RCMP is still walking around that farm very close to the ostriches without any masks on, no hazmat gear. They're not following their own police forces safety jurisdiction or safety guidelines. Certainly, they weren't following the RCMP safety guidelines by taking these dumpsters down. That was potentially very hazardous, very stupid way to take these dumpsters down. Anybody who's taken a basic safety course can tell you that's not how you do it. And I've been getting dozens of people telling me that, what are they doing? This is not how you dispose of garbage. You don't do it this way. This is very dangerous. They're putting themselves in danger. But they're still walking around they're not even pretending that they're part of the game. I mean, the CFIA goons have got their little jumpsuits on, their hazmat costumes, but they forgot to do that, I think, for at least 2 days, right? They're walking around without them.
It wasn't until Katie and Karen said, "Where's your suits?" And they said, "Oh yeah, let's put our suits on." Like,
yeah. So I mean, that to me is a dead giveaway that they're not taking this seriously. They know these ostriches don't pose any risk to public health. They know that their health isn't going to be endangered by being around these ostriches. It's like they're it's a circus. It's a gong show. It's the Keystone cops. It's like they realized 48 hours into it, oops, we forgot to put our costumes on. And people are beginning to wonder why we're walking around without any sort of protective gear. Maybe we don't take this very seriously, or your personal protective gear, the PPG. They've finally decided to put it on to make this look like a real show. And once again, the mainstream media has never questioned that. I've never seen anybody at CBC say, why did it take you guys 48 hours to put on your hazmat suits? Aren't you infected now? Because you were around these birds for 48 hours without any protective gear on. And so they don't believe it. And it's come down to, we're going to kill these birds because we're going to kill these birds. There's no rationale except that's our policy. And it's not even the policy I've learned, because I've been researching this for the last 6 months and more intensively since they occupied the farm. It's not even the World Health Organizations or the World Animal Health Organizations or the World Organization for Animal Health. I always get that backwards. It's not even their policy to just start killing everything because they might have had avian flu 10 months ago. Even the World Health Organization says, well, maybe you can separate the sick birds, you can test them again, test them. CFIA refuses to test them because they know they're healthy. But what kills me is that they won't even allow the farm or anybody, even the RCMP, which is, who are supposedly there to facilitate their operation. They won't even allow the RCMP to count the birds. And to me, it's just guilt all over.
The whole thing, David, when you talk about the mainstream media and CBC, as we know, they trot out Angela Rasmussen, and they have been for months. She has for months talked about how dangerous these birds are, talked about shedding. Dr. Stephen Pellick from UBC, who's been good enough to talk to several people, he's done several news, and he gave me an hour so we could answer questions. It was almost like soon as Dr. Pellick got a little more visibility and started refuting everything Angela Rasmussen said. You probably saw that article in the Toronto Star 10 days ago. Suddenly, out of the blue, Rasmussen says, I believe, these birds aren't dangerous anymore, but it's the principle of the thing. And she went into our trade agreements and how dangerous they were in terms of affecting our trade. Well, Dr. Stephen Pellick absolutely refuted that as well. He talked about the fact that this farm is in a zone, doesn't affect the majority of the trade. And even in the countries like Russia and Mexico, where we do trade, and it's not on zones where provincially it could affect trade, these ostriches having avian flu, supposedly. There's 40 cases of avian flu throughout the province already this year. So even this little farm, the argument that it affects the trade, Dr. Stephen Pellick absolutely refuted it. They're not dangerous. It's right on the Canada.ca website where they say it's not a risk to our food source, just cook it properly. They say right on our Canada.ca website, it's not transmissible almost at all from human to human. I talked to the family whose daughter she's the one documented case of avian flu. They don't know where she got it. She is immune compromised. So is their whole family. Nobody else got the avian flu. They were all around her. So it's not, so everything that even the government says is true. It's not transmissible from human to human. It doesn't affect our trade. This is brutal. This is brutal what's happening. And like you said, the mainstream media keeps propagating that myth. It's a total lie. This is an attack. This is an attack on, well, I'm going off on a tangent. I've talked to 9 chicken farmers throughout BC and Alberta about 5 weeks ago. They're all afraid to talk. They all think this is absolute garbage. The shoot, shovel, shut up policy exists now because everybody's afraid of the CFIA. This farm is ground zero for changing a policy that is absolutely fundamentally wrong. And I know the farm's got Robert F. Kennedy on side, and I know not everybody agrees with him. There's pros and cons to him. I totally get it. But if you read Kennedy, you can disagree with some of what Kennedy says, and I disagree with some of it. But you read his book, and as my wife pointed out, who started following him 8-9 months ago, you read his book, everything he references, he's got links to other scientific experts. This isn't him talking. So yes, he's got some ideas that are maybe out there, but everybody does. Every politician does. Every doctor does. Nobody's thinking the exact same thing. These are healthy animals. These are healthy animals who are not a risk to our trade. Period.
Yeah, and the stamping out policy that they keep repeating over and over and over. The United States does not accept the stamping out policy. It withdrew from the World Health Organization. It's no longer a member, and it has rejected the stamping out policy. And that of course, is our chief trading partner. So this is nonsense from the CFIA that this is all about international trade ruling. And this is all about our trade with the United States. Crap. And once again, as I said earlier, the World Health Organization has a far more lenient policy than our own government, which claims it's just doing this because we're a member of the World Health Organization. And clearly, there's something going on here. I found it interesting. I mentioned this the other day. Nobody has actually mentioned the fact that the CFIA initially gave the Universal Ostrich Farms an exemption from what they call, euphemistically depopulation. In other words, slaughtering the birds because they recognized they were a unique genetic species. And so they said, okay, you don't have to, we don't have to cull the birds. That was on January 2nd of this year. January 10th, 8 days later, they came back and rescinded that without any explanation. Now, the same month that the CFIA rescinded that, Canada bought a huge amount of avian flu vaccine from KSG, I think it is, this UK firm. It's Glasgow something or other. And or is it SKG? I think it's SKG actually. But the same, within weeks, Canada announced, the federal government, it was Trudeau at the time, announced it had bought massive quantities of avian flu vaccine. So I wonder if that had something to do with why the CFA rescinded its exemption, because clearly they don't want any evidence of herd immunity. And Katie's been saying this from day one, because I've been talking to her, and since she's been fighting this for 10 months now. They don't want any evidence of herd immunity. They don't want any evidence that we don't necessarily need mass vaccination programs for avian flu, that the birds can handle it themselves, as they probably have for centuries.
And so can we. And back to the young lady that has the avian flu or had the avian flu. She's immune compromised. That's why she got it from all accounts. And her family that's immune compromised didn't get it. And if anybody was going to get avian flu, if this is so dangerous, that whole family would have been sick. And they're not. And Katie's letters, by the way, that you referred to, David, too, those, the communication with the CFIA back in January, that's all documented. They've got all the PDF letterhead coming. It's right there where I think they took it off their website I'm not sure why I don't see it up on the website right now, but it was there up until 2 months ago and they've taken it down, I guess maybe because it's before the court now, but that's all documented. It's not just Katie saying. They've got those letters it'll be before the courts, I'm sure. So
Yeah,
what country do we live in? I don't know.
The thing is, the courts have ignored all of the evidence that the farm has put forward. At the appeal in Ottawa here last summer, basically they ignored. They didn't let them provide much evidence. All of the evidence was from the Crown, and they have, as Katie likes to say, they kept moving the goalposts on them. As soon as they achieve one level, they say, no, you have to jump up higher. And here's your new objective. And I think it's been just indicative and emblematic of this Liberal government that is constantly harassing ordinary Canadians for doing their jobs. And they've had a war on farmers for the last decade. I had Jerry Ritz on my show last week, and Jerry's an old friend from my days on Parliament Hill. He was ag minister for 8 years. And I asked him, I said, was the CFIA this bad when you were the ag minister? And he said, well, not quite this bad, but they've always had their own agenda, and you always have to tell them twice. And you virtually have to say, do it or else, or they won't do it. They'll do what they want to do. So if we talk about the deep state, all it is the endless bureaucratic machine in Ottawa that lives through government after government and thinks they don't have to listen to whomever is in power. They'll listen to the Liberals if they're talking the same language, and they certainly are right now. But they see themselves, I really believe this, from their behavior, they see themselves as above the law, that they don't have to listen to even the Supreme Court because, well, we'll just do it through the back door. You tell us you tell us to temporarily suspend the call. Well, we'll do it through the back door and we'll get away with it because nobody's going to charge us. And I think this is a national tragedy. People have asked me, not many, but some people have asked me, and people continue to ask me every day in the comment section, why do you keep talking about the ostriches? Why are you doing so much on this story? And I think it's Freedom Convoy 2.0 for me. I've said that from day one. This is about fundamental freedoms in this country. And if this farm loses, and I think Katie and her family could lose a hell of a lot in this. There's all kinds of crap stories out there saying, they're raising millions of dollars in fundraising, and they're awash with money and awash with funds, and this is all BS. They could lose everything because they might not get compensated for these birds because they fought this in court. And I would doubt very much that they will get compensated because of the way this government treats people. But for me, this is about your freedom to own your own home, to own your backyard, to have a private farm, to own your livestock and not have the government come in any trumped up charge and kill your livestock, steal your livestock, and steal your livelihood. And if any Canadian out there doesn't think this story is relevant to them, thinks, well, it's just an ostrich farm in BC. This ostrich farm in BC is your home in Toronto or this in Saskatoon, in Regina, in Calgary. This is about your rights as a homeowner to have private property and to dispute stupid policies that this government likes to put out. And I think that's why it's important.
100%. And so you talk about Katie, and I'm not on the inner circle. I've gotten to know them a little bit, but I'm kind of on the outer circle. But you read things online about the farm, and you just talked about how they'll never recover from this. They won't. And we read stories online that they've lost lawsuits, that they owe money. Yeah, and Katie has said this a week ago. She's addressed it more than once. Yes, they do. Yes, they have debts. As they moved from a level of meat production back in 2019 or 2020, and they went into the research that then got shut down when the lab they were dealing with canceled the contract mysteriously. They're suffering. But she says farmers all over this country are suffering, and these are good people. Everybody that just watching CBC and believes everything you're hearing, go back and read on Castanet, Kelowna News Portal in 2021. There's a story there about the research they were doing. This is legit. Go back to 2019 and read the news stories about Karen staying on the farm during the fires to stay with their animals rather than abandoning them, and taking other animals from other farms in the area to keep them safe. This woman refused to leave. They've got ostriches on this farm that are lame. A couple of them are blind. These are some people say, well, why would somebody have 400 ostriches or 350 ostriches? I don't know why somebody would have 350 ostriches, but you know what? They love their animals. They're keeping animals alive that probably would be smarter to just shoot the damn things because they're lame or they're blind. These are good people. They're like anybody.
Just a reminder to viewers, if you're tuning in late, I've got Blake Roberts on the show. He is the individual who shot that incredible video footage we showed you yesterday, and which is finally circulating around Facebook and social media and X and other social media and YouTube. We need to get this out far and wide. And this has been a fascinating conversation so far, Blake. I just wanted to ask you though, what is the I don't want to say the atmosphere, but how is, as we said in the military, how is morale amongst with Katie and her family and the supporters who are still there? Is morale still high? Because I talk to Katie virtually every day, and I know she has her ups and downs. There are days she's really finding it difficult. How are they doing?
Well, again, I'm not on the inner circle. I've been in the kitchen once for a couple of minutes. It's funny. I've said this before. So Doug, who's the head of security, he said that house is a tinderbox right now. The pressure in there, you can only imagine, right? But for me, as one of the supporters, I go up to the
yeah.
Give me a minute. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. And this is not an easy subject.
You go up to the highway. And you see the kiln fields, right? Then we used to drive past these fields where the ostriches, as you're driving onto the farm from the highway, you see them, and it's kind of cool. And now they've got those hay bales, and it's sickening. And you get angry when you're there, and you're sad. And then you drive onto the farm, and you drive onto the campsites where everybody is, where all us are, the supporters. And it's the most wonderful place. Sorry, this is embarrassing. But it is. It's there's a lot of cool. My life's changed from meeting some of these people. I'm not alone saying that. The genuine people that are there, and the love that's there. And anybody from Mark Carney, you should drive onto this farm. If you do this, if you allow this to happen, shame on you. the people you're going to destroy, this farm you're going to destroy, these people you're going to destroy, but the people that have come and gone from that farm, either that have camped out, slept in their cars for days at a time, or even just the people that drove in for a day. This is the frustrating part. Everything that's wrong in this world that is so difficult to fix, homelessness, the drug issues, wars around the world that we can't do anything, we really can't fix. This is so fixable. Snap of a finger, like you said, David. There's no reason for this. And our government, what they don't get, this isn't a left-right issue. They want to unite this country. For all the division that this country has, if they stop this, our country would be more united than it's ever friggin' been. It's so simple. That's the frustrating part. So if you do this, I'll never recover. I'll never think. I know so many people never trust again. But man, it's fixable. It is so. This could be such a beautiful story, and we could be leaders around this world. Our government could be leaders. Could show the rest of the world how to do it. So, yeah.
Well, that is incredibly powerful, Blake, and I don't say that lightly, because everybody associated with the story has become very emotionally invested in it. And I won't deny that I have become emotionally invested, even as a journalist who I've listened to the other side. I've listened to what the CFIA has to say. I don't buy it. And I'm fighting for this farm as a journalist because I believe it's integral to everybody's freedom. And I think this would be a tragedy if this farm loses this. And this is why I have reached out to everybody I know, every media outlet, every person of influence that I know, to say, please look at this situation and do something about it, because you're destroying good people, as you keep describing, Katie, and the owners of this farm, who are just trying to do a job. And they transitioned to research, I think 2 or 3 years ago. They used to sell the ostriches for food. This was not an easy thing to do, but it was incredibly groundbreaking, and nobody's giving them credit for that. This research could enable human beings to avoid catastrophic diseases, to develop herd immunity, to develop the antibodies. And the mainstream media is ignoring that. Just kill the birds, because that's the policy. And I guess I want to, end this by saying, I can see, the emotion in you being associated with this. I hear it all the time from Katie, not just when she's on the show, but when we're talking. And I know it's been an up and down experience for them. They've so many times felt that they were on the verge of winning this. And I'm not ruling that out at all. And this is why I think we're in the home stretch. We're going to keep fighting hard over the next couple of weeks to get the word out. But I want to thank you for having the courage to put this material out, because there's nothing in this for you at all. I mean, I don't even have to ask you that. There's absolutely no benefit for you putting out this video on social media, because it certainly invites you to be attacked. I know you've been attacked. We're not going to get into that. And it's funny, as soon as I got off the phone from you last night and we were talking about some of the things people have been attacking you for, sure enough, I saw one of the CFIA bots within minutes was out. It's almost like they were monitoring my phone calls. I'm wondering, but they certainly monitor my posts on X. They monitor my YouTube material, and I can tell, because the bots are coming back with material that reflects what I've said, except they're trying to refute it, but of course they're miserably failing. And the last time Katie was on the show, she talked about these CFIA bots that are out there saying incredibly scurrilous things about them. But you mentioned one thing. I want to end with this, Blake. You said this could be a unifier if the government says, okay, we're wrong, stand down. Let these people alone. Just let them alone. Let them get on with their business. Let them get on with their livelihood and their lives. I think this could unify the country to some degree, and it's certainly not unified. Because I don't know if Katie and her family had any political ideas, in terms of working for political objectives or parties. I think they were focused on their farming, on agriculture, getting their job done. Now, of course, they are very politically focused because this Carney government has made them that way. And like a lot of us who went through the COVID pandemic and the Freedom Convoy, it was transformational for me. It changed the way I viewed politics. It changed the way I viewed my own ideology and my own philosophy. Changed me dramatically, and I think this has done that for Katie and her family. So a lot of Canadians are watching this and they're saying this is not the Canada. And I see, your hat you're wearing today, Canada established 1867. Well, even if you go back to 1967 when Canada celebrated its centennial, this is not the Canada I remember, not the Canada I grew up in, not the Canada I went to university in. It is a country that has lost its way. And I think what is happening at this farm illustrates how much Canada has lost its way. And I guess I'll conclude with that. What do you are you? I mean, I get a sense that your spirit is heavy this morning. But do you think we can still win this if we keep fighting?
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. Sure hope so. Sure hope so.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant to ask you. Today is the end of the warrant to search expires today. I know you want to be on the farm to see what happens. And I know you're not in the inner circle. I'm not asking you to speculate, but I'm hoping that this warrant is because of all the adverse publicity the CFIA has had in the last week, especially about this warrant to search, that it's not going to be automatically extended. That I'm hoping that the farm's lawyer can get this thing to cease and desist today. Do you think it's possible?
Again, out of my wheelhouse, but I've heard conflicting. For the last 3 days, was under the impression it does expire today, but somebody had been saying that Jeff Gaudry on the farm, the spokesman, apparently he said yesterday it doesn't. I don't know. So I know no more than anybody else, whether that's a rumor.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I'll find out what everybody else does, if that's true or not. But
yeah, I guess I will too. I'm trying to get as soon as I get off the broadcast, I'm going to see if Katie's up yet, because I'm going on Redacted this afternoon. I'll be talking about the latest from the farm, in addition to the usual stuff I talk about on that show. And they have been wonderful in covering the story as well. And they've had Katie on 2 or 3 times to talk about it. And every time I'm on to talk about Canadian news, I make sure I include this story in it, because I keep telling Clayton and Natalie that this exemplifies what's wrong with Canada. This is what Canada. This is why Canada has gone wrong. So
you guys
we're going to keep
the next generation of news. If I could just say, David, thank you, because this is how our children or our children's children will be watching the news. It's so frustrating. Like, I've got a 95-year-old aunt who my sister and I are getting so frustrated with, because she says, "Well, I've watched the news and they should kill these ostriches," because she's seen CBC, right? My wife and I, we've canceled our TV subscription because I'm not contributing to those SOBs. Sorry, my language. Other than my taxes, I am not. We don't have. I'm not even. The news networks are. We don't have that cable anymore. We're done. All we're watching are people like you and Rebel, and people like me that are filming. And when there's stuff goes on, we always have to double check what we don't believe anybody. Don't believe me either. But the next generation is going to not be fed from this state-run, and that's what it is. CBC and CTV, they're state-run media. They're no better than the Russian or the Korean. It's state-run media. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
But turn it off. I've seen firsthand. Being on the ground here, I've seen firsthand that it's state-run media and it lies to people. Sorry. period, Des.
No need to apologize. That's the way it is, my friend. Blake, it was so nice to meet you, even if it's virtually. And please stay in touch. I'll be staying in touch to see what anything else you might be able to contribute here in terms of video or your analysis is welcome, because you're there and you know what's going on. And I think you've very, very emotional interview today, and I thank you for bearing your feelings. I know it's very difficult to talk about, and believe me, there have been times when I've been talking about this on the air. I've been on the verge of tears because I've become very personally invested in the story, and I feel just so bad about what's happening here. But Blake, thank you for joining me today, and we'll certainly you're welcome to come back at any time. And let's see what happens today is all I can say. And hopefully this order is not extended. This search or warrant to search is not extended. So thanks again, Blake. And
Thanks, David.
we'll be talking again soon.
We'll
Bye
talk
for now.
Celebration. This is going to end well. We'll have a party.
Okay. I'm hoping, praying, and believing so too.
Okay.
So we'll talk again soon, Blake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that incredible interview with Blake. Very, very emotional. In the time remaining, I do want to do a little bit of national news here, because we've got so many issues facing this country. I talk about them every day. It's the farm, I think, is emblematic of how bad the country has become. But we've got 3, potentially 4 censorship and surveillance bills coming up in Parliament. The only way we're going to stop these, because the NDP will vote with the Liberals on these, is to have another election and replace the Liberal government with a Conservative minority, at least, maybe a majority. But we've got to get rid of this Liberal government for the sake of this country. It's going to be catastrophic otherwise.
I don't think Canadians want an election, but election there will be.
It sounds like you're worried about maybe Canada going to another election. Is that a realistic possibility Canadians should expect?
We have a minority government, but we believe we have a mandate. And when I see opposition parties not ruling out the possibility of voting for the budget, that's starting to worry me. But I think it's them that are misreading the mood of Canadians. If an election is necessary, we would obviously, reluctantly, because we don't think Canadians want an election, but election there will be. It's the opposition parties who have that decision in their hands.
Why not accept the Bloc's demands?
Well, which ones? The one that said it's unimaginable that they vote for the budget, the negotiable demands, or the non-negotiable demands? It's pretty hard to follow.
What about the NDP?
You'll have to ask the NDP about the NDP.
Have you been having those conversations?
What I just said is that the Prime Minister has had conversations, Mr. Chapang has had conversations, other ministers have had conversations, and we will continue to listen to what they have to say.
Do you think opposition parties are bluffing?
I have no idea. You'll have to ask them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to show you this as well, because Mark Carney, I really think, believes he can win a majority government. He's delusional. He cannot win a majority government if they have elections within the next two months. But I hope he keeps believing that, because he will go down to defeat. And that's the only thing that potentially could save this country from sliding into complete Orwellian authoritarianism with these censorship and surveillance laws. We're going the way of the United Kingdom, which is now no longer a real democracy. It is a authoritarian state where the police come to your door and say, take down your social media text, your social media message. Take it down because it might contravene the law. No, I'm not here to arrest you, not yet. I'm just telling you to take it down. That's the way the UK has become. There's no free speech left there. There won't be any free speech in Canada if these censorship laws go through. So we need to bring the opposition parties need to defeat this government. I just want to play this final clip here.
I met this morning with the Canadian CEO of GM. I was in conversation with the head of the labor union of Unifor, and I also talked to Doug Ford, and I talked to Vic Fideli. We will make sure that we fight for these jobs.
she talked to this person, and she talked to that person, and she talked to this other person, and she talked, and she talked, and they talk, and they talk, and nothing gets done, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are tired of talk. They want their job.
So I just have a few minutes to get everyone in, but I do want to talk to all of you. Louis, what are your thoughts on how the sort of Stellantis decision and now GM, I know they're not perfectly analogous, but like how big of a challenge is this?
This is crazy, Vashi. I mean, just think back about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago, we were so high on the auto industry in this country, we were literally like going for the fence. Less than 2 years later, the wheels seem to be coming off the cart, and excuse the pun here. I think Pierre Poilievre, and I hate to say this, but I think Pierre Poilievre's got a point there. And, the Carney brand is action, it's focus, it's right now, it's let's get things done. And you've got the industry minister saying that she talked to one person, talked to another, and whatnot. This is going to be very, very tough. The auto industry is going through a crisis moment. Obviously, we've heard about this potential deal with the United States, which does not include the auto industry, by the way. And when Melanie Joly talks about having, these contractual obligations with these companies, whereby they need to guarantee, or they took undertakings to guarantee a certain number of jobs in Canada, that's all well and good. But you know how these things work. The company bails, goes to the United States, people lose their jobs, and then you go to court over the obligations and the contracts, and that can take for years. And so politically speaking, it's very, very difficult to see the upside on this when the industry is going through a crisis, particularly in Ontario, but also here in Quebec.
Guy was a former advisor to the current finance minister, Champagne. He's a liberal, and he's saying, this is a party, this is a government that doesn't have the wheels on their trailer or on their wagon. So doesn't look good for Mark Carney. If he wants an election, go for it. Do it. You're going to save the country if you lose this election. I think it's the only thing that's going to stop us from sliding into dictatorship and tyranny. And my God, we're so close to it right now. Thank you for watching today, folks. I will be back tomorrow with more of the news you need to know. And we'll keep on the Ostrich File as long as I have to, until we have a victory in this, or until we see something tragic happen. That's not the end I want. That's not the end I've been fighting against. But we're going to keep this story up there, because very few media outlets want to cover this story in the independent media, because it's not great for your ratings. You'll get suppressed, but you'll be telling the truth, and you'll be doing a service, not just to a farm in BC, but to all Canadians who love freedom, including yourself. Thanks for watching today. I'll be back again tomorrow at 10. Bye for now.